So I'm just looking over some things on my Kioti CX2510. I had made an entire video with my GoPro on my forehead, basically doing some small maintenance items and adjusting some things on this. And after filming it and looking at it on my video editing software, basically my GoPro was pointed up at the ceiling the whole time. So I don't have the footage of what I was doing, but I'm just kind of getting this thing ready for the winter. I had a few things I had to address. One, I just wanted to go over everything and grease it. Not just all the grease zerks on the loader, but there's even a couple that are underneath of it as well. Some of them are really hard to get to. There's one right there, but and I wanted to show, this is my grease gun. It's a pretty cheap one. I think it was under 20 bucks at Menards. And this is the fitting that came with it. And with this, you had to push it on there with one hand while you were squeezing the grease gun with the other. And when it gets cold, this little fitting does not like to work. And I think that could be maybe one of the reasons why some of these pins are getting worn down pretty good. In the wintertime when it's cold and you're already impatient because it's 40 below and you're trying to squeeze that fitting on there, I might not have greased them as well as I should have. So I got this really cheap locking jaw grease end. Got it at Harbor Freight. I can't remember how much it was now, but it wasn't much. It's cheap, but I tried that out and it works really well. It locks itself on there so you can free up a hand and squeeze the grease in there. And of course, the colder it gets outside, you know, the more difficulty you have with the grease coming out of the grease gun. But so anyways, I greased a bunch of stuff on this, and I think I've mentioned this a few times before in my videos on this tractor, that there's a PTO shield that goes right here. You can see now there's 4 bolts in there. I put the bolts back in because I didn't want to lose them, but I took that shield off. This is the shield. It bent right here because I don't know why I have a problem with this, but these check links on the side always seem to come loose after a while. And in the winter time, last winter and the winter before, I moved a lot of snow with this machine. And the check links got loose, and then my 3-point slid, it moved over enough that it actually caught the edge of the shield. And when I lifted the 3-point arms, it bent the shield really bad. Yeah, that was a couple years ago. So this thing's been bent for a long time, and I was looking at it and it was kind of driving me nuts. One, because I was stupid enough to let the 3-point get loose and damage it, and then 2, it's an otherwise nice machine, so having a bent part like this drives me nuts. So I took it off and I was trying to straighten it with my vise, and I know this vise is tiny, it's way too small to be straightening any type of metal like this, but I broke my vise, so I took that off of my bench. I have another bigger vise that I can put there, but that I've had this vise for a long time. Kind of sucks I broke it. But I did straighten it a little bit. It was way worse. This was bent way out, and because it was bent out, it got hit more often with the 3-point arm. And to be honest with you, when it comes to, you know, people reviewing tractors and all that, and Kioti did not use cheap metal for this PTO shield. This is actually pretty heavy stuff. It's hard, really hard to bend. So, but I'm never gonna get it perfect, and that drives me nuts. So I called the dealership I bought this tractor from, and they said they could get me one brand new. So that's 90 bucks, but that's fine with me because it'll at least look better, and you know, it'll be new and stuff. And now I know not to let these check links get loose and do that again. So, but I really don't get the deal with those, because I don't know if I'm doing it wrong, but I always hold this with you know, like a bar or a rod, or you know, something strong, and then I tighten down this nut. I adjust it where I want it, and then I tighten this nut down against this as tight as I can so it won't get loose. And it's tight now. I had an entire video adjusting this 3-point, and like I said, the camera was pointing at the ceiling the whole time because I apparently don't know what I'm doing with my GoPro. But I have the 3-point adjusted the way I want it. Still might need to adjust the angle with this center link right here, but so I need to get that PTO shield back on when it comes in. I'm not sure how long it's going to take for it to get shipped and everything. It's on back order right now, but I don't have any attachments that run off of that PTO. I've never used it, and I really would like to get an attachment sometime for that. So, but you definitely want to have that shield on there, because if something happens with your PTO shaft or your PTO itself or whatever, you don't want that thing blowing apart and sending parts and stuff all over the place. So I'll get it, put it back on when I get the new one in. But another thing that I wanted to talk about, a couple weeks ago, if you watch my videos and you're subscribed and everything, I had, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 videos with this. I had it out at my brother's place, and he's basically kind of just throwing down fill, and he's building up part of his property because someday he's going to be having concrete poured and a building put up. And he gets free fill dumped off, but then the dump truck guys don't want it back into the mud, so they dump it right off of the road. So I had to basically scoop by scoop pick it up by the road and then take it back and dump it where he needed it. And this Kioti did an awesome job. It was heavy stuff. It was concrete. I saw some guardrails mixed in, gravel, you know, 3/8 lime chips, you know, dirt, mulch, all kinds of crap in it. And spent 2 full days with this thing, just going back and forth, lifting, scooping up the material and dumping it. And what I noticed was, and people have been telling me this for a long time on my videos, is the ballast issue with this. Now I do have a 3-point rear blade for this, which I've kind of always used as my ballast, but it's not enough weight, and I should know that by now. But I had this thing in 4-wheel drive when I was moving all this material, and I noticed that it was putting a heck of a strain on the front axle of this thing, and it's because there wasn't enough weight on the rear axle the whole time. Even with the weight on the back that I did have, the weight of the rock and concrete and the dirt and everything in the bucket put all the pressure, all the weight on this front axle. And when I was down here greasing some stuff, I checked the front axle oil just for fun. and it was low. It's hard to see right now with the camera and everything, but it was low. So I added to that some 90 weight, which is what the owner's manual told me. So that was kind of concerning. I don't know if it was low on oil up there because it was getting worked really hard and it got hot and leaked out because the viscosity was really thin. Not sure. But I realized for future use, I got to be careful putting so much strain on that front axle. That's definitely something I don't want breaking. So some people in the comments before were asking about if the rear tires were loaded, and I've never done that ever, not even with a garden tractor. I just have no idea why. But it's definitely something I'd consider doing. But for now, I'm looking into possibly even making a homemade ballast box. You know, the problem, and I've talked about this before in other videos on this tractor, but the initial cost of this tractor is one thing, but then all the other stuff, all the attachments and the maintenance costs and everything else, it's expensive. And looking at some ballast boxes for this, it's amazing what people want for that stuff, even used. And so I might even see if I can't get some heavy steel. I know a couple people that, you know, have some heavy steel stuff laying around. And I could probably weld something together. I even have access to at least 1,000 pounds of lead, if not more. So I need to make something to put on the back of this that's really, really gonna weigh it down and take some pressure off the front axle when I'm moving heavy material. Which is kind of, in the winter time, it's honestly, it's not so bad when it comes to the amount of weight on the loader. It's funny because one full good scoop of dirt or gravel or rock in this bucket weighs a lot. I mean, it for the amount of volume there, it weighs quite a bit. But it's funny because in the wintertime, when this bucket's up and it's kind of leveled out, you know, you can have 4 or 5 feet of snow on top of the bucket, wet snow. And it's heavy, but it's not as heavy as the dirt and the rock that I move in the summer. It's weird. So in the wintertime, the weight distribution thing isn't a big deal. It seems like in the winter, the 3-point blade I have on the back is plenty of counterweight. I never really seem to have issues with it, but I do want a ballast box by at least next spring. So then when it comes to moving dirt and all that, then I have more than enough weight on the back of this tractor. I remember I had a quote, I was given a quote for a backhoe on this, which I still haven't decided if I want to do that yet. But I remember the salesman, who's a heck of a guy at the dealership where I got this tractor, really knows his stuff. I mean, he's just one of those down-to-earth Iowans that just knows every square inch of every tractor he works on. He's good. And he was telling me that, because I was asking him, I'm like, you know, do a lot of people get backhoes for these? Do they work really good, you know? Are they worth it? And he was honest with me. I mean, he's a salesman. He wants to sell me stuff because they're a dealership, you know. But he told me, he said, honestly, everybody buys a backhoe in the frame mount kit and everything underneath, and then you have to get a hydraulic kit to run the hydraulics back to the backhoe. And when it's all said and done, I think a backhoe for this unit's close to $7,300. And he said everybody who gets one takes it home and they dig a bunch of stuff with it just because they're excited about it. And then he says they oftentimes will take it off the back of the tractor, leave it in a pasture, and there it sits for years and years, and all the hoses get bad, you know, and rodents move in and start chewing on stuff. And so he said you really got to think about, you know, how much you're going to use it before buying one. He was honest with me, you know. He's like, you may not justify it using it enough. But what I'm getting at is he did tell me, he said one of the best things about having a backhoe on the back of these He says it's so much weight that it just perfects your weight distribution on these. He said you can leave that backhoe on all the time, and he said moving material with the bucket is perfect. He said it's just, you can't get more ballast than that, than an entire backhoe set up on the back of your tractor. And so I've been fighting with myself for a long time. I've always wanted either a backhoe or a mini excavator, and just thinking about having a backhoe on the back of this, it makes me curious how much better this thing would perform with that weight on the back. But either way, I need to come up with some type of weight thing on the back. And so that's something to think about if you have one of these, or you're planning on getting one of these, is not putting so much strain on your front axle. And I can tell when I lift heavy material that there's weight coming off of the rear axle on this thing, and it's all getting put on the front. I mean, you can just tell, you know. So then if you don't have it in four-wheel drive, you practically can't go anywhere because there's no weight on the rear axle. So, and that's an improper way of using a machine like this, and I should know better than that. I wanted to get that project done for my brother, but after that, I'm kind of told myself I need to have more weight on this to use it properly. So, but anyway, so yeah, I got the 3-point where I want it and tightened down really well. Hopefully it stays that way, especially after I get the new PTO shield. Greased everything, checked all the air, tire pressures in the tires. And as far as the fluids, they're all good for now. I think my next fluid change is in 100 hours. I believe. I'll have to double check that in my paperwork somewhere. So on the back here, I have this slow moving vehicle sign, which isn't terribly necessary. I don't really drive it that far anymore. I used to drive this thing 2 miles one way, and I would do some work and then I'd drive it back home 2 miles. I don't know if it's bad for it, but it just, you know, if at 2 miles, I don't want to, you know, drive over in low gear. So you put it in high and you know, you get going. This thing will go about 16 miles an hour, which is pretty fast with a loader on it, and, you know, and the 3-point blade on the back. And every little bump in the road, this whole thing rocks back and forth like crazy. Anybody who's, you know, driven tractors like that knows. Combines are like that. But I don't like where the sign is at, because in order for me to get this in my garage, I have to put the ROPS down, and then my sign's in the way. And as you can see, the sign is worn right here, and then the paint on the back of the bar here is worn down. And obviously when I'm driving this thing on the road or wherever else, I try to get this bar up. Anytime you're running one of these, you gotta have that bar up, and I am so bad about forgetting about it. But if you tip this thing over, it could really save your life having this up. But every time I back it into my garage, it has to be down, and I kind of wish I could figure something out that's better for this sign, so then that doesn't happen anymore. But I did get a new sign. I think it was like $6 at Tractor Supply. I like the steel ones. I know they have the sticker kind or whatever, or the plastic kind, but the plastic just seems so brittle. I don't know. But I haven't decided where I'm going to put that yet. They kind of have this thing already set up on here for a sign. At least I think that's what this is for, this mount on the back behind the fuel tank. But I know that if I put it, I don't know if you're supposed to have them all the way up there, because people's headlights are supposed to reflect on these. I don't know, but I don't know if I want it up there. Definitely don't want it off to the side anywhere, because if it's off to one side, then my OCD will kick in and it'll drive me nuts that it's not right in the center. But I like to have that on there, like even moving snow if I'm out in the street, you know, pushing snow off of the end of my driveway and stuff. I like to have that on there. You know, there's always that one person that is looking on the information superhighway on their cell phone while they're driving down the road, and if they hit me, then at least I could say, well, I had all my hazard lights on and I had my slow moving sign. And can't trust anybody these days in vehicles. Everybody's on their phone. So I like to have it on there. And I think it's a law too. I'm not sure. I honestly have no idea in Iowa if it's state law you have to have a slow moving vehicle sign on anything that's slow moving. But so I just had a few small things I had to go over. I'm sorry my video that I had filmed was pointed at the ceiling. It was actually kind of an interesting concept of the video. I talked about a bunch of different things I forgot about now, but I also noticed on the loader that the hoses are starting to rub the hood. I just pulled on it, kind of bent it back a little bit so it isn't touching now, but it was like that, sitting right on the hood, and I don't want that. Those hoses kind of get a memory to them. If they're in one spot for a while, they kind of stay there. So I'm hoping leave it like that for a while and maybe it won't touch the hood anymore. I don't know. But anyway, thought I'd just do a quick video on that and talk about it a little bit. I definitely want to start looking into buying some more stuff for this just to make it better and get more performance out of it. I know I need a tooth bar for the bucket really, really bad. I should have got one of those a long time ago. And I was looking into I think it was Piranha. And they can actually custom make them for your bucket. All you have to do is measure the inside width of your bucket to the nearest 1/4 inch, and they'll make it and ship it to you. And I think all you have to do is just drill a little hole in the side of your bucket, and I think they'll even send you a step bit if you need one. And looks to me like it makes a world of difference having a tooth bar on there for dirt and digging and all that stuff. So I definitely want to get one of those by the spring. Don't really need it in the winter time with snow and whatnot, but they're cool machines to have. And if you go to my channel and look up all my videos, I have quite a few videos on this unit. But anyway, if you would, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.